If you're new to the game of golf, learning how to hit irons can be one of the hardest parts of the game because it requires so much precision. You have to get the ball hit cleanly, or the saying in golf is you got to hit the little ball before you hit the big ball, which is of course the earth. So when you are working on learning how to play golf and learning how to hit your irons for the first time, learning how to hit them cleanly, the most important thing that you need to learn is how to hit the ball cleanly. Once you do that, the rest of it's a lot easier. But if you're chunking it every time or hitting it thin every time, it's not a very fun game at all. So what I want to do is help you learn how to hit the ball first before you hit the dirt, and that's going to make golf a lot more fun and then a lot easier to play good golf and get your handicap down. So the first thing that you got to understand when learning how to hit the ball first is understanding a concept what we call shaft lean. And what that means is the shaft needs to lean toward the target slightly at impact. The reason for this is if the butt of the club is leading the head of the club into impact, one, it means you're still in control because you haven't fully released the club head yet, but it also allows the club to continue on a downward or negative angle of attack. What that means is when you're coming down, if I was to really exaggerate this with a really steep angle of attack with a ton of shaft lean, that's about 45 degrees of shaft lean, chances are I'd hit the ball first before I'd hit the ground, of course, unless I hit way back behind it. So of course, if the shaft is vertical and starting to release, it means it's bottoming out typically behind the ball and then starting to scoop back up into it, and you're going to get a bunch of dirt. Of course, you're going to hit the ground, which is going to slow the club down, a bunch of dirt between the club face and the ball, and then work back up and hit it thin. So we have to have shaft lean to encourage a negative angle of attack, which allows us to hit the ball first. So that is the most important thing for you to learn as a beginning golfer, how to hit your irons clean. How do we get that shaft lean? I'm glad you asked. Because that's one of the most important fundamentals of rotary swing, is understanding this concept of pushing the club through impact versus pulling the club through impact. Now I've done a ton of videos on this, so click the link, you'll see the little iCard on the corner of your screen if you want to understand more about pushing versus pulling, so I'm not going to cover that here. But once you understand that concept of pulling the club head through the hitting area, which allows the club to be pulled through and remain in control. Think of it like pushing a trailer down the highway or pulling a trailer down the highway. If you've ever tried to back up a car trailer into your driveway, you know you got to constantly make little corrections because the two centers of gravity have to be perfectly aligned when you're pushing something from behind in order for that trailer to go straight. Now when you pull, just due to the forces of physics here, the two centers of gravity will automatically align. So what that means is you are allowing the club face to follow behind, just like you're pulling a trailer down the highway, which of course makes it much more stable and consistent. That is a critical piece of iron play, but it also gets us into that shaft lean position. So when you're learning, what I want you to practice is going out on the range, just making little chip shots with your lead arm only. If you're a right-handed golfer, you're going to play with your left hand. And what I want you to do is work on pulling the club slightly. It's not like you're trying to yank it, you're not pulling it hard at all. It's more of a guided pull, but taking the club with your last three fingers and pulling it through. Now as you notice as I do this, I'm going to exaggerate the pull. I wouldn't want you to pull this long, I'd leave the face open, but just a slight pull. Notice how as I do that with my last three fingers, it gets the shaft leaning toward the target. And this is applicable to any level of golfer, especially amateur golfers who flip and scoop and throw the club with their right hand, because now what are you doing? You're bottoming the club out behind the ball, pushing against the shaft with your right hand, which is common because everybody tends to be right-handed who plays golf. So what you want to learn to do is use your lead hand to start pulling the club through, and that's going to give us that shaft lean that we need at impact, and that will help you hit the ball first before you hit the big ball.